Welcome to the Real Estate Niche Show, a show that focuses on top real estate professionals who specialize in different niches of real estate. My name is Ben Kogut. Join me as we dive deep into the professional and personal lives of the experts of the real estate industry. Welcome to the Real Estate Niche Show. I'm your host, Ben Kogut, and today I have a friend of mine, Dan Kryzanowski. He is a real estate advisor, investor, and partner. He has raised millions of dollars across multiple channels, including accredited investors, family offices, and investment advisors, while empowering his partners to raise seven figures on multiple occasions. He specializes in niche segments. Good thing we're on the Real Estate Niche Show, such as industrial and self-storage, complemented with a deep knowledge of tax advantage investing. Dan, it's finally a pleasure to have you on the Real Estate Niche Show. Thank you so much for joining us. Is there anything big that I missed on your bio?
No, this is fantastic. I mean, a lot of people pick on me for being from Scranton, PA, but I'll say insert your office joke here as, you know, hopefully the sun comes out in Austin. The one day a year there's no sun, so oh well.
Nice. Well, I know we're both here in beautiful Austin, Texas. Well, let's dive into it. Tell us about your real estate niche and how you got into it.
Yeah. My niche, I think I call it the essence. I joked on Scranton, but self-directed IRA, solo 401ks, and self-storage. I had the good luck to have a taste of Austin via GE Capital, which if for our friends out here that know GE, this is a very Northeast, coming to, Austin, especially 15, 20 years ago for GE Capital was way out there. But as luck would have it, I was here with something that was tangential to self-storage. And fast forward a few years, I was the first guy with a bit of gray hair at Sparefoot, which eventually sold to private equity, and got to meet everybody in the self-storage space. And I fell in love with it. I know it's all headlines, but it was the back pages back then. So it's just been really, it's good. I learned from my clients, I learned a boatload and turned it around to start investing my money.
Awesome. Yeah, I definitely want to talk to you to learn more about investing in the self-storage business. I'd love to learn more about the self-directed retirement account space. So let's dive first into the self-storage business. Tell us, what is it that you like about the self-storage business? What do you not like about the self-storage business?
Yeah, what I like about storage, first of all, from a business perspective, it's very simple. We have a 5-year-old, it's like Legos, basically. You build something, and if you want to tear it down and make 5x5s and 10x10s, frankly, it's pretty easy to do. And then holistically, what I like, it went from people used to joke, oh, it's for my stuff I really don't need. But as this post-COVID world has turned, and as there's a limited supply of both housing for rental and permanent, storage becomes a nice to have to a true need to have. So a brief microcosm is, in case you want to feel like a true hoarder, or you have to you need a place for your tax documents, your kids' winter clothes, you can either stumble and try to find an extra bedroom in a hot MSA, which might cost you an extra $1,000 a month, or go to storage. And for multiple reasons, I think the storage is the benefit. So I think there's still a lot of meat on the bone holistically across the country in storage.
Nice. I know you've been involved in the storage space for longer than most people I know. And I'm curious, what's changed in the industry in the last, 10 years, would you say?
Wow. Yeah. The fact that we're talking about it, and probably, 4 out of 5 other podcasts are post-COVID, that says a lot. Storage was definitely the back burner asset class that nobody talked about, almost in an odd way that I would say industrial is these days. That said, the view of storage was something, even before Breaking Bad, would be an old dingy, non-efficient storage. I like to joke in Scranton, PA, and of course I invested in my hometown. But, a true 1980s built, almost like a shed. It wasn't as attractive. And then, on the urban side, before everybody wanted to move back into urban areas, take the 80s and 90s, I'd say folks with a bit of foresight gobbled up some of the Chicago Loop is a great example, gobbled up some of these buildings and just threw storage in it. So, people wondering, what are you using storage for, this and that? Whereas now, fast forward, as I said, it's the essential on the housing side, and many small business owners, not only for their inventory, and this may have changed because of COVID, but in New York City, some folks actually officed out of there above the tunnels in their storage facilities.
Wow, that's pretty resourceful. Yeah, what I've seen in the conversation around syndication is people are either talking in general about multifamily, and now I hear a lot more people talking about self-storage. And I guess, I don't know if you agree with this, I feel like historically self-storage was either mom and pops or, I don't know, maybe some REITs, some of the larger, and now it's really become a really hot asset class. I haven't personally invested in any self-storage yet, but I'm not opposed to it. I just am, I don't know, I would be just a little bit concerned about maybe an oversaturation in particular markets. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think in the macro, it's fair. At a high level, is the supply demand equal? Sure, across the country, but the comment you shared before, the mom and pop, grandma, grandpa ownership, it's still valid. So 4 out of 5, aka 40,000 out of 50,000 storage facilities tend to be owned by mom and pops. I mean, we can stand up well, actually, there's an ATX self-storage, but we can stand up, a Ben and Dan storage, and that's fine, versus, say, a community bank where you're going to be licensed, everybody's going to know who you are, et cetera. It's very unregulated to a point to stand something up, assuming you get permitting. Anyway, so with that said, as you bring it down to a micro location, I mean, downtown Austin, of course, folks need to put their skis somewhere. Secondary markets, I go back to my example, do you want the house to be clean? Where do you want your stuff to be? And then way out in tertiary markets, or say vacation markets, you want to have your stuff there, particularly say if you're renting out your apartment, your condo. So, with that, on a location by location, there's still a lot of opportunity. And now putting on my investor hat, storage isn't hard, but as an operator, you probably have to be around the sun about 18 months to get the little intricacies of it. So that said, when you take the 4 out of 5 mom and pops that haven't had the benefit of maybe, say, working for a REIT previously, once somebody that I say is versed in storage and owner-operator purchases, you're going to see a big month-one bump. And even if they sell after 2 years to somebody else that's called an A player, it kind of goes at this linear run rate when you have what I call an experienced operator.
And why is it? What are they doing that's so beneficial?
Yeah, I mean, once again, you can basically force people into insurance. It's legal. It's a normal practice. And I give the analogy versus banking where, God forbid you force anybody in, you got to make them sign all disclosures and such. There's other things in storage where, I mean, revenue management with some could still be on the equivalent of a spreadsheet. Rents haven't been raised in a few months. Signage alone, people are driving by. There's just a whole lot that, once again, once you're around it, I like to think revenue management 101 for some of our other folks are when you send the rent increases. If you're in a college town trying to get more, I'll call them quote unquote permanent long-term commercial tenants versus a 3-month college. So once you implement some of these, you get some bumps pretty quickly. And then, of course, technology. And I'd say the big delta between 10 years ago now when I go to Vegas to these shows, I mean, before, frankly, was, hey, do you have a website? That was huge on the tech side. Now, you can spend down till you're in the red forever with all the bells and whistles and storage, to the point where you don't even need somebody on site, electronic this, that. So you kind of have to pick and choose by your property, know your demographics. And that's where I go back. It's really beneficial to deal with somebody on the underwriting side and even the day-to-day management that has been around and seen a lot of these properties.
Got it. And I want to pivot back to one thing that you had mentioned that I'm curious about. You said forced insurance. Does that mean they're literally requiring their storage tenants to buy insurance? Like, I don't know what kind of insurance, but is that what you're talking about?
This is me talking as an LP seeing what happens. But yes, you do need your goods insured. And, you could take it as like I'm, of course, a storage tenant. I play all aspects of storage. I use my homeowners, but a lot of folks will not either have homeowners or rental or something, or want to compartmentalize and keep it separate. So yeah, to the best of my knowledge, this is a pretty, I'd say, normal practice for folks that are versed, whereas a mom and pop may not have taken advantage of that.
Got it. Cool. Thanks for sharing that. Let's pivot a little bit, Dan, and I'd love to talk about self-directed retirement investing. It's a wonderful topic. I personally do it myself, and I'd love to teach people who have not tried it out. I'd love to teach them about it. So would you mind sharing with us about that?
Yeah. So, high level, I guess if there's any takeaway, which I hope, is that folks, whether you are a quote unquote investor or syndicator, to be aware that, we here in the US, individuals can tap into our retirement dollars to invest in private assets such as real estate. Putting on the syndicator hat, meaning folks raising money, those that do this or even share that one sentence, that did you know sentence, tend to get about 20%, 10 to 20% of their raise from these self-directed accounts, from this $10 trillion pool of retirement dollars. Individuals that have done it, much like anything, when you find this new pool of money in terms of relationships, maybe you use your self-directed IRA for self-storage. It's extremely powerful. And then for some of our other folks, you and I spend a fair amount of time in Dallas, take somebody that worked for Exxon all these years, has 3 kids at SMU or Rice. You might be a little low on the liquidity for these next few years, but because you have this old 401k and you just retired, this is this $1 million chunk that you can tap into for great deals across Texas. So that's more of how this plays out. In the weeds, I'd say, I joke, it's something, it's a little nerdy. It's been around since the 70s, kind of like myself. But when you get to know it, it's pretty cool. And it's legal. I'll always verify it's legal. Politicians use it. It's not really going anywhere from that standpoint. So I would say that up until about 5 years ago, it was old, it was stodgy. You needed a scanner, a fax machine. But at the end of the day, what it did, it enabled you as an individual to tap into your IRA, your old 401k, to invest passively in somebody else's deal or
Got it.
house that you would not stay in. And then from here, you get some more headlines of the asset classes, whether it's loaning to a female entrepreneur, Peter Thiel's using a Roth account, the whole seed versus tree analogy with the startup. Of course, crypto now is attractive these days.
Got it. And have there been any new laws or regulations passed in this industry recently?
There's been a few headlines. The one for me did not make sense because for either side of the aisle politically, there was no points to do it. And this, I won't even go into detail on that, but potentially it could have shut down some part of the self-directed IRA. Once again, not the solo 401k. So for our self-employed friends, the solo 401k is probably a few steps away from any potential regulation. And then something else, when you get to physical coins, you're talking Kugel, RENS, everything. This is really going into the weeds, but somebody took a microcosm of one case and made it a headline, I think, for his own marketing purposes. A, not cool, B, not accurate. I think a lot of people saw through it pretty quickly. So there's always going to be somebody for a quick headline. But as I said, once again, there's a lot of money that goes into it. It's people's retirement. Politicians on both sides have it. And if you look vis-a-vis the Fidelity Vanguard of the world, it's still relatively small, frankly, 1 or 2% of this huge, X trillion dollars in retirement money.
Got it. Nice. So quick shout out to my dad for sitting me aside when I was 18 years old and explained to me about this concept of compound interest and Roth IRA, which is going to grow post-tax. So it'll grow tax-free, which is what it's been doing for the last 20 years. I can't believe that. But anyway, so now it's grown to a point. I just want to kind of give a couple more examples on a personal level to anybody listening that I have used my self-directed IRA, shout out to Rocket Dollar, who I have had a very good experience with, and let's make sure we put them in the show notes. So I have made some personal loans using my self-directed Roth IRA through Rocket Dollar. I have invested in syndications as a limited partner. I have also invested as an LP in a consumer products good company called It's Skinny Pasta. And I'm actually on the verge of investing in some, how should I put it, some contract for deed property in South Carolina that's basically pieces of land with double wides on them. I'm investing into a portfolio using my self-directed IRA. And why am I doing this? Because these are opportunities for me to grow my retirement funds tax-free. And these are investments that I believe will have some pretty aggressive returns to it. And so just wanted to kind of let people know that when you are saving for retirement, kind of like what Dan was talking about, it doesn't have to be in the stock market or in bonds or mutual funds or things like that. That is definitely an old school way of thinking. And definitely follow Dan, because I know he's been on many, many podcasts talking about the many ways and benefits that you can, accelerate the growth of your retirement account. And so thank you, Dan, for being a thought leader in that space as well.
Thank you, and I appreciate it. And it's always great to hear about your portfolio, Ben. It's snazzy, and I think one thing. I mean, you're a bit more humble than me, but I'm happy to share. A great benefit of these accounts is you can actually invest in companies and entrepreneurs and causes. Stated bluntly, the other side of the tracks that doesn't have that much access to capital. While it's always cute to donate, I think investing, you see that money roll over so many times. And folks with a great idea, that 5 or 10K that you may give a loan, which you could do out of your self-directed account, or be that true angel investor, you see that play out. So for me, frankly, that's the most gratifying. And, a lot of the loans are double-digit returns. I'm not in it for charity, and the startups tend to keep on growing at, an additional X per year. So I've been pretty fortunate with that.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing about that. So we can pivot. There's those 3 questions I told you before we started that we can pivot to, or we can pivot into BV Capital. Like, which direction would you like to go?
Yeah, on this with BV, I mean, the benefit of a great way for those that follow me on LinkedIn, or just reach out, say, hey, I was talking to you and Ben, and let's continue the conversation. The benefit I've had over the last few years is to get to know, and kudos to Ben and the team at HJH, over 500 sponsors, a decent number that I've invested in personally, and kind of at the stage of life and career. The folks at BV Capital, in terms of Texas real estate, obviously Texas is hot. Folks are moving here. People want to taste it or dip their toe in the water. This seemed like a pretty good match for me at the moment. And much like we're all rah-rah over self-storage, and Ben, I appreciate your guys' headline too, industrial. Trust me, in 5 years, everybody's going to talk about industrial. It's the best thing ever. I never thought of it. It's the best. In short, it's where goods are made and things flow through. Whether you're on highways, ports, et cetera, or purposely not close to that. And we can talk for hours about industrial, but right now I'd say triple net industrial properties in terms of, I'm going to put on my LP hat, even though I am licensed Series 7, all that good stuff under a broker dealer. When you, as an investor, look at the risk return, particularly for that stable monthly or quarterly dividend, I think industrial, it's almost like underwriting thinking as a bond. And frankly, it's obviously a lot better than a CD, earning 1%, a checking savings, earning a few basis points. I mean, this is where you get that ongoing 6 to 8% yield, double digits IRR overall. So, without going into deeper detail, I think I'll pause it there. I purposely put myself call it Texas real estate, and have learned a lot more about industrial in the past year. So, in addition to storage and multifamily, I can go down that rabbit hole offline with anybody.
Nice. Yeah. Y'all hit up Dan, talk about investing in self-storage, especially in Texas. It is definitely one of the hottest asset classes right now, all the way, every quality from brand new construction all the way down. There is a demand. And we've seen part of that is driven by, a lot of manufacturing is coming back to the States, and Texas in particular. That space is getting absorbed. Construction costs due to a variety of reasons, including just supply chain issues, has driven costs of construction up, which has made just existing buildings become a lot more valuable and a lot more attractive. And then just cap rates in general have compressed, not only because interest rates are super low, but also because I think there's a flight for people to buy more real estate due to inflation fears coming down the pipeline. And so I'm just curious if any other color that you might want to add to some of those thoughts.
Oof, that sounded so perfect. I wanted to.
I know. I don't know what just hit me, but yeah.
No, I mean, the big thing that comes out is you're right, the cost of stuff, the timing to get those materials, and ultimately the folks that will choose to work on a site, particularly if you're a smaller fish. I mean, side example, I have a buddy that flips houses in North Carolina, hasn't missed on a payment on hard money in 20 years. And he has his people, they're kind of in a secondary, tertiary market. It's tough keeping them sometimes. It's tough folks keeping around. It's the demand, and you see this across all service, blue collar, frankly, all industries. Yeah, you got. I mean, because that can mess with the numbers pretty quickly. So, the existing value add, I think, is a safer bet these days.
Agreed. Yeah. So employee issues are definitely a hot topic right now, and we're at the beginning of 2022 right now. So we'll see how that changes going forward. Awesome. So let's continue to pivot, Dan. I want to acknowledge you for your involvement going to many different conferences. I know that maybe share with us about some of the conferences, some of the activities that you've been showing up to across the country. Sure. And what have you been learning and getting out of showing up at all those different events?
Absolutely. A lot of it is understanding, I'll say, the different pockets of money and what the true need, desire, interests are. So I'd say two or maybe three sides is the best way I can look at it. One, in the family office world, I think there's the biggest thing is the return of the principal, of course, but it's more of the, no surprise, the relationship, which of course crosses everything. But I'd say especially here, the confidentiality, and it's not that crazy. I mean, we're all human at the end of the day. That's the big takeaway I got from all of this. The fact that Tom Brady was on LinkedIn, not saying he and I were chatting one-on-one, because boy, I'd love to make that claim, but that's sort of, hey, we're all human at the end of the day. Do you go 100% in what you do? And I think that's what, especially in the family office side, you're looking at. The RA channel I find unique because a lot of folks, especially I'd say younger investment advisors, are going independent, going on their own, because they don't want to be boxed into a handful of them. It's just not probably the best for the overall portfolio mix for their clients. So they have to make, through head and heart and decision, make that decision. So I've touched on that a little bit. And then, finally, before going into our common world, I'd say the pension space, our firefighters, our policemen. I didn't understand, although my dad was a high school principal, many folks in my family in education, the extent of how important the pension is on the career, particularly of a firefighter, policeman. It's vis-a-vis what you're making now, when you're on the force per se, and later, huge reliance on this. So once again, getting to know the folks has been, I just think for me, how I'm wired, this is going to be some good relationships down the road. Separately, I'd say more of our accredited investors, up and coming syndicators. I know Hunter Thompson, Adam Carswell, they've just been a great group. I think they really embraced, hey, here's a world post-COVID. Let's get together. It's one of the few shows said, wow, even if I sat there and strictly listened to the presentations, it would be worth it. So there's been a few others that I can list them ad nauseum that I've gone through, but I mean, Hunter's has been a really good one that's been top of mind recently.
Nice. Yeah. Shout out to Hunter Thompson and Adam Carswell. Both Dan and I were recently in Los Angeles at the Intelligent Investors Real Estate Conference, connecting with a lot of great investors, as well as sponsors, syndicators, and everything in between. So that was, and then Dan and I got to personally go out and have a really good time seeing the monster truck show at, man, that was great. So anyways, without getting too far down the rabbit hole, I'd love to learn a little bit more about you, Dan. And so the question I love to ask, the first question is, how do you like to invest in yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I love using Tom Brady as the example. I think it's on the health side too. And, for me, there's a product called Immunical. From what I know of it, it's formed by Canadian doctors. A lot of folks in the Latin community take it. It's so good for you that U.S. insurance companies won't acknowledge it, which makes me think it's probably a good thing. As it's told to me, you pop one of these in the morning. It's more of a mix. And being that we live in the 21st century with all this stuff in the air, kind of gets you at par, gives you a shield for a day. You come in hungover, well, tough cookies, you got to deal with that. But no, that's one. I mean, in terms of different sort of physical therapy stuff. Yes to that. I'm hyper aware. Yoga once a week, just any sort of little sort of practice. My wife is very versed in this space, so I get little bits of wisdom from her also. So
Nice.
just being really open. As you know, here in Austin, obviously today's not a great example, but taking advantage of sun and being outside, any sort of hike, stretch, frankly, just playing, is something I did.
Awesome. Awesome. And how do you like to invest in the community?
Yeah, I've been fortunate. Hugh O'Brien Youth, the acronym is HOBY. So anybody out there with a child, student who's a high school sophomore or about to be, I'd suggest looking into it. HOBY. It's a leadership seminar for high school sophomores with the only credences to will help guide you how to think over a weekend, not what to think or what to do. But in short, I'll talk to my old Pennsylvanians up here. If you carve out Philly and Pittsburgh, the rest of the state coming together for the first time. So you're at a dorm together. You might visit the state capitol, do a labor management, do a business plan, do a community service. There's different themes of leadership that are shared. But the big thing is like, hey, I'm away from my little bubble for the first time. And it doesn't have to be, high school quarterback, student body, number one in the class. It's at the point now where I think parents have the ability to self-register, although the spirit is, one, maybe two max sophomores from each school. So it's been powerful for me. As I said, I volunteered. I was chair of the board down here before, but as I bounced around the country in my 20s, it was always that a constant of something that I can volunteer and contribute. And now as I get older, of course, to evangelize, to my buddies with their kids up and coming.
That's wonderful. Wonderful. Awesome. One more question. How do you define the word success?
I think it's time right now. And I share the ability to control your calendar. And I'm not saying, we're obviously not on my island here, sitting around getting fat and happy doing nothing. But, I think success is the point where you have the ability, especially I'd say this stage of life and career, much like we're doing on our call here, is to share education that you feel has made a notable change or could greatly impact multiple people. So for me, I think the ability to evangelize and share kind of your strong suit, and in return, be with people to hear about their superpower and immerse that in your life. And, obviously to the extent going cross-cultural with my wife in Mexico, and at an age appropriate level, sharing with my 5-year-old, for me, bringing this in part of as a natural flow of life, that's what I call success.
Love it. Love it. Bonus question, besides the fact that it's set in Scranton, yes, what's your favorite part about the office?
I don't know, man. Dwight's awesome. I think we all want to be Dwight. I think if I had to go back into an office, I'd find my peak corner in the first 5 seconds, even if there wasn't a fire drill, and just
make your mark. Love that. Awesome. Well, Dan, we're going to wind things down here, and maybe share with people, if they want to get a hold of you, what would be the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, LinkedIn is great. I'm pretty religious on it. Mentioned, you heard it with Ben. I joke, if you can spell it, you can get it. D. Kryzanowski, 12 letters. I'll get you a few bucks off your Rocket Dollar account. It's also rocketdollar.com/learn. It's truly an award-winning knowledge base to learn about the self-directed. And then finally, with reference to HOBY, the HOBY.org, I'd suggest taking a look into.
Awesome. Well, we'll be sure to get all those links and notes in the show notes here. And so on that note, is there anything else that you'd like to mention before we sign off?
No, as folks come to Texas, of course, please reach out to us. I'll be at Best Ever in Denver in a few weeks, and hope to crisscross the country throughout. So if I ping you, beer and barbecue or whatever you have in your backyard on me. So.
Nice. Well, I've traveled quite a bit of the United States with Dan, and it's been a lot of fun. So hopefully everyone will get a chance to connect with you, whether it be here in Austin or somewhere else in the country. And so, Dan, thank you for joining the Real Estate Niche Show. Thanks for being my friend and business partner too, for that matter. And so on that note, this has been another great episode of the Real Estate Niche Show. And until next time, I got to come up with a tagline at the end here. I haven't figured that out, but I just really appreciate everybody listening, and give us a little subscription. Hit the subscribe button and 5 stars and all that good stuff. We're going to start pushing that here pretty soon. And any feedback is also welcome. And until next time, thanks y'all.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Real Estate Niche Show. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from me or the show, you can follow me on Instagram at Ben Kogut and at The Real Estate Niche Show. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.